As the resistance begins to organize, Alina takes command. She knows that this mission will require everything they have. They don't have the luxury of time, and the Xarath won't wait. The battle for humanity's survival is about to begin. In the final moments before they launch their assault, Alina stands in front of her crew. The weight of the moment is heavy. They are about to face an enemy that has already decimated their world. But they will fight, because that's what humans do. They fight, no matter how impossible the odds. The clock is ticking. The fate of humanity rests in their hands. It seemed impossible, until humans did it. The underdogs prepare. The year is 2157. Humanity has spread across the stars, colonizing Mars, the moons of Jupiter, and distant exoplanets. Earth, the cradle of humanity, is no longer the center of the universe, but it remains the heart of civilization. Technology has advanced beyond imagination. Robots, cloaking devices, and faster-than-light travel are all a part of daily life. Humans have become comfortable in their dominance of the galaxy, believing themselves untouchable. But that comfort shatters in an instant. A sudden flash of light appears in the sky, like a star falling from the heavens. The first strike comes without warning. A fleet of sleek, dark ships materializes out of nowhere, their cloaking technology so advanced that they seem to appear out of thin air. The ships are massive, dwarfing the human fleet in size and power. The Xarath, an alien race so advanced that no one had even heard of them, have arrived. The first city to fall is New York, a bustling metropolis, home to millions. In a single moment, the Xarath unleash their power. The sky is filled with the sound of a massive pulse weapon, and New York's towering skyscrapers crumble to dust. The streets are incinerated, the population reduced to ash. No warning, no mercy. Earth's military responds quickly, but it's hopeless. The Xarath's ships are equipped with advanced cloaking technology, making them nearly impossible to track. Their weapons are so powerful that human defenses are obliterated in minutes. Earth's greatest cities fall one by one, with no way to stop them. In the chaos, a broadcast is sent out. It's a hologram, a towering figure of the Xarath leader. His voice is cold and emotionless, but it carries a chilling message. Resistance is futile. Surrender now or perish. The image flickers for a moment before the screen goes black. The people of Earth are left in shock. There's no time to organize a defense, no way to understand what just happened. The Xarath have arrived, and they have no interest in negotiation. The last hope of humanity is on the brink of extinction. Captain Alina Vega. Jax didn't need to be told twice. He spun his ship, firing at the incoming Xarath vessel with precision. The blast hit its target, sending the enemy ship spiraling out of control before it exploded in a brilliant flash of light. But the victory was short-lived. The Xarath were relentless. For every ship the humans destroyed, two more appeared. The Xarath had far more firepower, and their ships seemed to be everywhere. Alina watched in horror as one of the human ships, a civilian freighter, was torn apart by a barrage of energy blasts. The crew inside had no chance. "We need to get to the station now," Alina ordered, her voice sharp with urgency. "Move, move, move." The team pushed forward, their ships weaving through the chaos of battle. Alina's heart pounded in her chest as she watched the Xarath ships closing in. The distraction was working, but it wasn't enough. They needed to get closer to the mothership, and they needed to do it fast. "Jax, you're up," Alina said, her voice calm but filled with determination. Jax's ship rocketed forward, dodging incoming fire as he made his way toward the Xarath supply station. The station was heavily guarded, but it was the only way to get close to the mothership without being torn apart. Jax's ship was fast, but it was also fragile. Every time he dodged an enemy shot, the ship rattled, and he could feel the strain on the hull. "I'm almost there," Jax said, his voice tight with concentration. "Stay focused," Elena replied. "We're counting on you." As Jax approached the station, he could see the Xalathar ships closing in. They were everywhere, and the station's defenses were already opening fire. Jax's hands flew over the controls as he dodged and weaved, narrowly avoiding incoming blasts. His heart raced as he closed the gap between his ship and the station. With a final burst of speed, Jax flew straight into the heart of the station's defenses. The explosions were deafening as his ship slammed into the station's outer wall, sending shockwaves through the area. For a moment, everything went black. Then the lights flickered back on. Jax's ship was damaged, but it was still intact. He had made it. "We're in," Jax said, his voice hoarse but filled with triumph. "Now, let's finish this." The team moved quickly, planting explosives and setting the AI disruptor in place. The Xalathar ships were closing in, but the humans had done their part. The station was rigged to explode, and the disruptor was ready to do its job. As the last of the explosives were set, Elena gave the order to retreat. Everyone out. Now, the human fleet began to fall back, but the Xalathar were not done yet. They had lost the station, but they were still coming. The battle wasn't over. But for the first time since the invasion began, Elena felt a flicker of hope. The humans had struck back. They had made the Xalathar bleed. The retreat was chaotic. Ships were damaged, and several were lost in the fray. But the humans had done something that no one thought was possible. They had fought back. They had made their first move, and the Xalathar had felt it. As Elena's ship moved out of the battle zone, she looked at the damage. It was far from a victory, but it was a start. They had survived the first clash, and that was all that mattered. The aftermath of the battle was a blur of destruction and chaos. The human fleet had dealt a blow to the Xalathar, but it came at a heavy price. Ships were crippled, and many lives had been lost. The fleet limped back to the outskirts of Mars, battered but not broken. Elena stood in the command center, staring at the holographic map of the galaxy, her mind racing. They had won the first clash, but the war was far from over. The Xalathar were relentless. They had underestimated the humans at first, but now they were hunting them down with a fury that left no room for error. Every day, the Xalathar seemed to get closer, their ships appearing on the horizon like shadows, waiting to strike. Elena's crew was tired. They had fought hard, but morale was starting to falter. The survivors had seen their comrades fall in battle, and the constant pressure of the war was beginning to wear on them. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Elena's shoulders. She had led them this far, but she wasn't sure how much longer they could hold out. The darkened room was filled with the sound of quiet voices, the murmurs of a team trying to figure out what to do next. Dr. Malik, ever the optimist, had been working on a new plan, but even he seemed to be losing hope. "We need a new strategy," Dr. Malik said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "The Xalathar are too powerful. We can't keep fighting like this." Elena turned to him, her face grim. "I know, but we don't have the luxury of time. If we don't keep pushing, we'll be wiped out." The room fell silent. The reality of their situation was impossible to ignore. The Xalathar had already taken Earth and Mars, and now they were closing in on the remaining colonies. The survivors were scattered, their resources running low, and their numbers dwindling. There was no backup. There was no reinforcements. It was just them, and they were running out of time. Jack stood at the back of the room, staring out the small window. His face was hard, his expression distant. He had seen too much death, too much destruction. His family was gone. His comrades were gone. And now he was fighting for a future he wasn't sure would ever come. "Captain," Jack said, his voice quiet but filled with a deep, unshakable pain. "What if we're not strong enough? What if we can't win?" Elena turned to face him, her eyes softening. She had seen the toll the war had taken on him. She had seen it in every soldier, every civilian who had joined the resistance. But she couldn't afford to show weakness. Not now. Not when the entire human race was on the brink of extinction. "We are strong enough," Alina said firmly. "We've been the underdogs since the beginning. But we've never given up, and we're not going to start now." Her words were meant to reassure him, but even she wasn't sure if she believed them. The truth was, they were facing an enemy unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. The Xarathar's technology was beyond anything the humans could comprehend, and their AI systems made them nearly invincible. The humans had no chance of defeating them in a direct confrontation, but they had to try. They had to keep fighting. The next few days were filled with planning and preparation. Dr. Malik had come up with a new idea, a way to hack into the Xarathar's AI systems and gain control of their ships. It was a long shot, but it was the only hope they had left. The team worked around the clock, trying to gather the necessary resources and develop the technology they would need to pull off the impossible. But as the days passed, the pressure continued to mount. The Xarath were closing in. Their ships were appearing more frequently, and their attacks were becoming more coordinated. It was only a matter of time before they found the human fleet and destroyed it completely. Alina knew that the next battle would be their hardest yet. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and running out of time. She could feel the weight of it all pressing down on her, but she refused to give in. She couldn't, not when so many lives depended on her. The darkest hour had arrived. The human fleet was on the edge of collapse, and there was no clear path forward. The Xarath were relentless, and their victory seemed inevitable. The survivors were running out of hope, and Alina could feel that hope slipping away with each passing moment. But in the midst of all this darkness, there was still a flicker of light, a small, stubborn flame that refused to be extinguished. Alina looked at her crew, at the men and women who had stood by her side through it all. They were tired, yes, but they were still standing. They were still fighting. "We're not done yet," Alina said, her voice steady. "We've come this far. We're not going to let them take everything from us." Her words were met with silence, but there was a sense of determination in the air. The crew knew that this was their last chance. They had no backup, no reinforcements, and no other options. But they had each other, and they had one final shot at stopping the Xarath. The battle ahead would be the hardest they had ever fought. But Alina knew that, no matter what happened, they would go down fighting. They would go down with everything they had. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. As the fleet prepared for the next phase of the mission, Alina stood alone on the bridge, staring out into the vastness of space. The darkness was overwhelming, but she refused to let it consume her. She had to believe that there was still hope, that there was still a way to win. Because if she didn't, then the darkness would win, and she couldn't let that happen. The plan was set. Every detail had been carefully calculated, but the risk was unimaginable. Alina stood before her crew, knowing that this would be the most dangerous mission they had ever attempted. The Xarath fleet was closing in on the last human stronghold, and this was humanity's final chance to turn the tide. If they failed now, there would be no second chance. The human race would be wiped out, and the Xarath would reign supreme. Alina's crew, though weary and battle-worn, had never been more determined. They had lost so much already, friends, family, entire cities, but they still fought on. It was a fight for survival, for the future of humanity, and they weren't going to give up without a fight. "We don't have much time," Alina said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "The Xarath are almost here, and they're bringing everything they have. This mission is our last shot. We need to hit them hard, and we need to do it now." The room was filled with the sounds of weapons being checked, equipment being prepared, and people getting into position. Everyone knew what was at stake. They were about to launch a full-scale assault on the Xarathar's most heavily guarded stronghold, a massive fortress in the heart of their fleet. It was the key to their victory, but getting to it would be nearly impossible. "We'll have to get past their outer defenses first," Dr. Malik said, his face drawn with worry. They've got cloaking technology, and their ships are equipped with the most advanced weapons we've ever seen. It's going to be a hell of a fight. Alina nodded, her mind racing as she considered the challenges ahead. The Xalathar's ships were faster, stronger, and more technologically advanced than anything humanity had ever faced. But they had something that Xalathar didn't: heart. The humans had fought for survival, and that made them unpredictable. The Xalathar might have the power, but the humans had the will to fight. "We've faced impossible odds before," Alina said, trying to rally her crew. "We've survived the first clash. We've made it through the darkest hour. And now we have to make this count. We're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every person who's lost everything, for everyone who's counting on us." Jax, who had been silent for most of the briefing, spoke up. His face was grim, but there was a fire in his eyes. "We're ready, Captain. We got the best team, the best tech, and the best shot we'll ever get. Let's do this." Alina gave a small nod of approval. Jax had been through so much, but his resolve had never wavered. He was a fighter, just like the rest of them. Just as the drones were about to reach him, the Helios cannon unleashed its full power. A beam of pure energy shot out of the cannon, striking the alien fleet with devastating force. The entire battlefield trembled as the massive energy beam tore through the alien ships. The drones were obliterated in the blast, and the alien fleet began to disintegrate. Bonner's team looked on in awe as the cannon's power finally turned the tide of the battle. The aliens were retreating, their ships torn apart by the sheer force of the Helios cannon. But Major Bonner was gone. His sacrifice had saved humanity. As the cannon continued to fire, a loud, triumphant cheer erupted from the remaining soldiers. Earth had won. The battle for survival had been won, but at a terrible cost. Bonner's name would be remembered as the man who gave everything to save humanity from the brink of extinction. The battle had come to a critical point. Major Bonner lay motionless on the cold floor of the control room, his sacrifice ensuring the Helios cannon could fire. The countdown was almost over, but Earth's survival still depended on one thing: the cannon's final shot. Bonner's soldiers fought with everything they had to fend off the remaining alien drones, but in the chaos, Bonner's sacrifice had not been without cost. He had paid the ultimate price to give humanity a chance, and now, as the cannon powered up for the final time, his comrades were determined to see it through. The screens around them flickered as the targeting system locked on to the alien fleet. It was a last-second fix, a miracle really. The weapon, a symbol of humanity's desperate defiance, was finally ready to fire. The soldiers who had witnessed Bonner's final moments shared a solemn glance. He had made this possible. Now, they couldn't let his sacrifice go to waste. The room hummed with energy as the Helios cannon powered up. Everyone stood still, breathless. The only sound was the deep vibration of the massive cannon charging. Earth's last hope was in motion, but would it be enough to turn the tide of battle? And then, the cannon. As the dust settled and the last of the alien ships were destroyed, the surviving soldiers looked up at the sky. They knew their victory had come at a high cost. The battle had been long, and the stakes had been unimaginable. But Earth had won. The Helios cannon had been humanity's last chance, and it had delivered. The war wasn't over, but the turning point had come. The alien forces, now in disarray, were retreating into the darkness of space, defeated. But no one would forget the cost of that victory. Bonner's name would be etched into history, a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The camera panned over the remaining soldiers as they stood in the quiet aftermath, their faces somber but proud. They had lost friends, leaders, and comrades, but they had gained something more. They had gained hope. And they knew that no matter what came next, humanity would continue to fight. With the Helios cannon still glowing in the distance, a sense of finality washed over the battlefield. Humanity had struck back, and they had won. But the future was uncertain, and there was still much to do. For now, though, there was peace, And for the first time in a long time, Earth could breathe again. The war was not over, but humanity had proven that they were far from defeated. As the camera zoomed out, the final shot of Earth was framed by the glow of the cannon's light, a symbol of humanity's victory, and a reminder of the strength and resilience that had carried them through the darkest days of the war. The battlefield had fallen silent. The once mighty alien fleet, reduced to burning husks of metal and flame, now drifted in the vast emptiness of space. The surviving alien forces retreated, their ships scattering like rats fleeing from a storm. The Galactic Council, those who once considered humanity a mere nuisance, were now faced with the reality they had tried to ignore. Earth was no longer just a small, insignificant planet. It had become a force to be reckoned with. For years, the Council had underestimated the strength and will of humanity. They believed that their advanced technology, their AI-driven fleets, and their countless warships would easily crush the human race. But they were wrong. Earth had fought back with everything it had, and the Helios cannon had been the turning point. The weapon, a symbol of humanity's resilience, had struck the alien invaders with a power they had never expected. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a statement, a message that humanity would not be subdued, that Earth would stand tall against the might of any empire that sought to destroy it. As the alien fleet retreated into the far reaches of space, the Galactic Council's confidence began to crack. They had failed. They had underestimated a species that was not only capable of survival, but capable of defying the odds. The Council knew this was just the beginning. Earth had proven it could defend itself. It was no longer just a helpless world to be conquered. It had become the spark of rebellion for the oppressed species across the galaxy. The aftermath of the battle was one of mixed emotions. Earth had won, but the victory had come at a great cost. Major Bonner, the man who had led them through the darkest days, was gone. His sacrifice was the price humanity had paid to survive. His name would forever be etched into the history of Earth, a symbol of courage, leadership, and selflessness. But his death had not been in vain. The war was won because of his determination, and humanity would carry on his legacy. As the dust settled, Earth's leaders began to make plans for the future. The Helios cannon, while powerful, was not a weapon to be used lightly. It would be kept under tight control, a reminder of the cost of war and the need for peace. But its legacy would live on. It was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. And as long as it stood, Earth would never again be an easy target. The future of humanity was uncertain. The galaxy was vast, and other threats would no doubt emerge. But Earth had proven something that day. They were not to be underestimated. They had stood up to the Galactic Council, a powerful force that had ruled with an iron fist, and they had won. Now they would stand as a beacon of hope for the oppressed species across the galaxy. Their victory had shown that even the smallest, most seemingly insignificant species could rise up and change the course of history. As humanity began to rebuild, they looked to the stars with hope in their hearts. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready. They had faced down the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known and emerged victorious. Whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity would face them with the same strength, courage, and resilience that had carried them through the darkest days of war. The final scene took place on Earth's surface, where a funeral was held for Major Bonner. His soldiers, his friends, and his comrades gathered to honor his sacrifice. The sky was heavy with clouds, but there was a sense of peace in the air. Bonner's legacy lived on in every soldier who had fought alongside him, in every citizen who had supported the war effort, and in every child who would grow up in a world free from the oppression of the Galactic Council. The funeral was simple, but it was powerful. Bonner's comrades stood in silence, paying their respects to the man who had led them to victory. His name was etched into a monument, a memorial to his sacrifice, and to the sacrifices of all those who had fought for Earth's survival. The monument stood tall, a symbol of humanity's strength and resilience. It was a reminder that no matter how dark the days might get, humanity would always rise again. As the ceremony came to an end, the camera panned out, showing the monument standing against the backdrop of a peaceful Earth. The stars twinkled overhead, and for the first time in years, the planet felt safe. The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. Humanity had proven that it was strong enough to survive, and now it would build a future worthy of those who had sacrificed everything for it. The screen faded to black, but the message remained clear. Humanity had won, and the legacy of their victory would live on forever. The road ahead would be difficult, but as long as Earth stood, it would continue to inspire others to fight for freedom, for justice, and for hope. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson that day. Never underestimate humanity, because when it came down to it, humans would always fight back, no matter the cost.